The great chamber of the Galactic Council stretched for miles in every direction. Floating platforms held representatives from 47 different species. Some had scales that shimmered like liquid metal. Others had bodies made of pure light. A few were so old that they had forgotten what their original forms looked like. Ambassador Keith Voren of the Silent Collective stood at the central platform. His tall, thin body was covered in blue-gray skin that changed color with his mood. Right now it shifted to a pale yellow. This meant he felt amused. "The matter before us today is simple," he said. His voice echoed through translation devices that made his words understandable to every species present. "The humans of Earth have once again requested associate membership in our council." A sound like laughter rippled through the chamber. It came in many forms. Some species clicked their mandibles. Others released puffs of gas. A few simply transmitted their amusement directly into the neural networks that connected the chamber. "They have been a spacefaring species for only 300 years, Kethvoren continued. They have not yet developed faster-than-light travel on their own. They still fight wars among themselves. They are children playing with fire." On a small platform near the back of the chamber, two human diplomats stood in their environmental suits. Sarah Chen and Marcus Webb had spent 5 years preparing for this moment. They had learned the customs of dozens of species. They had studied the history of the Council going back 200,000 years. None of it mattered now. "The Council's decision is unanimous," Kethvoren announced. "Earth's petition is denied. Furthermore, we have decided that humanity poses a potential threat to galactic stability. They are too aggressive, too unpredictable. We will not share faster-than-light technology with them. They will remain in their home system until they prove themselves worthy of advancement." Sarah Chen felt her hands shake with anger. She wanted to scream at these arrogant beings who looked at humanity like insects. But she kept her face calm. She had a role to play. "We understand," she said simply. "We will inform Earth of your decision." What the Council did not know was that Earth had stopped waiting for permission a long time ago. Deep in the asteroid belt, far from any alien sensors, something extraordinary was happening. The abandoned mining tunnels of Ceres had been transformed into the most secret facility in human history. Project Erebus had been running for 60 years, hidden from every species that watched Earth with curious or worried eyes. Dr. Elena Vasquez walked through the corridors of the facility. She was 73 years old, but modern medicine kept her sharp and strong. She had given her entire life to this project. Her parents had worked on it before her. Some families passed down businesses or traditions. The Vasquez family passed down the greatest secret humanity had ever kept. "Dr. Vasquez," called out a young researcher named Jin Park, "the final test results are in." "It works. It actually works." Elena felt tears forming in her eyes. For 3 generations, they had chased something that every other species in the galaxy said was impossible. Dark matter made up most of the universe, but no one had ever found a way to interact with it. The elder races had tried for millions of years. They had given up long ago and called it a dead end. Humanity had not given up. In a massive construction bay hidden in orbit around Neptune's smallest moon, the first Prometheus-class warship waited. It did not look like the sleek vessels that other species built. It looked brutal, practical, human. The hull was black as the void itself, covered in strange patterns that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. Admiral James Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the ship. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much war. Earth's history was written in blood, and James knew that the future would be no different. The galaxy did not respect weakness. The Council had made that very clear. "Begin the shakedown cruise," he ordered. The dark matter drive activated. Every sensor on the ship went crazy for a moment as reality itself seemed to bend around them. Then the Prometheus simply vanished from normal space. It did not fly away. It did not jump through a wormhole. It slipped sideways into the dark matter substrate that existed beneath regular reality. From the outside, the ship was completely invisible. No sensor in the known galaxy could detect it. The Prometheus cruised through the void between stars, testing its systems. The crew watched in amazement as they passed within 1,000 kilometers of a Council patrol ship. The aliens had no idea anything was there. Back on Ceres, Dr. Vasquez watched the test data come in. The weapon systems worked even better than expected. The dark matter cannons did not fire normal projectiles or energy beams. They created localized distortions in space-time itself. In simulations, these gravitational shock waves tore through the strongest shields like they were made of paper. "How long until we can build more ships?" asked General Morrison, the military liaison for Project Erebus. "The Titan shipyards are already preparing," Elena replied. "We can have a fleet of 50 ships ready within 2 years, but we may not have that long." She was right to worry. The Council had already sent a message to the Dreth hegemony. The Dreth were the unofficial enforcers of Council policy. When a young species needed to be reminded of their place, the Dreth were called. They had crushed rebellions across the galaxy for 100,000 years. A Dreth fleet was already on its way to Earth. In the dark matter substrate beneath normal space, the Prometheus waited. Admiral Okonkwo reviewed the intelligence reports about the coming Dreth force. 47 dreadnoughts. Each one was 3 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to crack a planet. Any other species would have been terrified. James Okonkwo smiled. "Let them come," he said quietly. "It's time to show the galaxy what humanity can do." Sarah Chen and Marcus Webb were on their way home from the council chambers. They had played their parts perfectly. The aliens believed that humanity was weak and helpless. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The silence before the storm was almost over. And when the storm came, the galaxy would never be the same again. The Dreth were proud creatures. They stood 8 feet tall on 4 powerful legs. Their upper bodies were covered in thick armor plates that had evolved over millions of years of warfare. Their faces had no expressions that humans could read, but their 4 red eyes burned with ancient confidence. Fleet Commander Vexthar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crushing Tide. He had destroyed rebellions on 17 different worlds. He had brought 5 species to their knees before the Council. The mission to Earth was supposed to be simple. Show up with overwhelming force. Make the humans understand their place. Take any illegal technology they might have developed. Install a guidance council to watch over them. "We are approaching the human home system," reported his navigation officer. 47 dreadnoughts in perfect formation. Vexthar's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. This would be over quickly. The humans had no FTL capability of their own. They had a small defense fleet of primitive ships that used chemical rockets and simple fusion drives. It would be like crushing insects. The Dreth fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel above Mars. The red planet hung below them like a drop of blood. In the distance, the blue sphere of Earth was visible. That tiny world had produced a species that worried the Galactic Council. Vexthar could not understand why. They were so small, so fragile, so young. "Open a channel to Earth," Vexthar commanded. "Broadcast on all frequencies." His voice boomed across the solar system. "Attention, humans. This is Fleet Commander Vexthar of the Dreth hegemony, acting under authority of the Galactic Council. You have been judged a potential threat to galactic peace. You will surrender all advanced technology. You will accept a permanent council presence on your world. You will submit to guided development. Resistance will result in the destruction of your civilization. You have 1 hour to respond." The response came in 30 seconds. It was a single human voice, calm and steady. "Fleet Commander, this is Admiral James Okonkwo of the United Earth Defense Force. We respectfully decline your generous offer. You are welcome to turn your ships around and go home. If you continue toward Earth, we will interpret that as an act of war. This is your only warning." Vexthar's officers made sounds of disbelief. The human was threatening them? With what? Their sensors showed only a handful of primitive human vessels near Earth. This was either madness or the most pathetic bluff in galactic history. "The humans have lost their minds," Vexthar said. "All ships advance toward Earth. Weapons ready. We will burn their cities until they learn respect." The Dreth fleet moved forward in perfect formation. Their shields hummed with power. Their weapons charged with enough energy to glass continents. They had done this 100 times before. It was routine. Then reality tore itself apart. The Prometheus emerged from the dark matter substrate directly behind the Dreth flagship. For a single moment, it existed in both layers of reality at once. The ship's hull crackled with impossible energies that made the laws of physics scream in protest. Admiral Okonkwo gave the order. Fire! The dark matter cannon activated. It did not shoot anything visible. Instead, it reached into the fabric of space-time and twisted. A wave of gravitational force erupted outward. It moved at the speed of light, which meant the Dreth had no time to react. No time to understand. No time to be afraid. The crushing tide crumpled like paper in a giant's fist. 3 kilometers of advanced warship collapsed into a twisted mass of metal and flesh. The shields did nothing. The armor meant nothing. The gravitational shockwaves simply bent space itself until the ship could not exist in its original form anymore. Vexthar died without knowing what killed him. The Prometheus was already moving. It slipped back into the dark matter substrate, invisible to all sensors. 3 seconds later, it emerged beside another dreadnought and fired again. Then another. Then another. The Dreth fleet fell into chaos. They were trained warriors, but nothing in their training had prepared them for this. Their sensors showed empty space one moment and a human warship the next. Their weapons fired at nothing because the Prometheus was already gone. Their shields offered no protection against attacks that twisted the shape of reality. "What is happening?" screamed a Dreth captain. "Where are they coming from?" No one could answer. The human ship appeared and disappeared like a ghost. Each time it materialized, another dreadnought died. The gravitational shockwaves did not just destroy the ships they hit. They created ripples that damaged nearby vessels as well. Secondary waves threw ships out of formation. Tertiary effects collapsed structural supports and ruptured fuel lines. In the first 10 minutes, 15 Dreth dreadnoughts were destroyed. In the next 7 minutes, 16 more followed. The survivors tried to flee, but their FTL drives gave warning after warning about gravitational anomalies blocking their escape routes. "All ships, emergency jump!" ordered a surviving Dreth commander. "Get out! Get out now!" Some of them made it. Their faster-than-light drives screamed with effort as they pushed through the distorted space around them. They vanished into the safety of superluminal travel, leaving behind the wreckage of their fleet. When the battle ended, 31 Dreth warships had been destroyed or disabled. Thousands of Dreth warriors were dead. The greatest military force in that region of space had been shattered in 17 minutes. Admiral Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the Prometheus and watched the last enemy ships flee. His crew was silent. They had just done something that no species had ever done before. They had defeated a Council enforcement fleet. They had proven that humanity was no longer prey. "Send a message to Earth," Okonkwo ordered. "Tell them the battle is won. Then prepare for the response. The Council will not accept this quietly." On Earth, people looked up at the sky and cheered. News of the victory spread across the planet in minutes. For the first time in human history, they had faced an alien threat and emerged victorious. They were no longer the primitives begging for scraps from the galactic table. They were warriors. Far away, the surviving Dreth ships limped toward the nearest Council outpost. Their reports would send shock waves through the galaxy that made the gravitational weapons look gentle by comparison. The humans had done the impossible. They had mastered dark matter. They had turned the fundamental structure of the universe into a weapon. And they had only revealed one ship. The Council had no idea what was coming next. The Galactic Council had not seen panic like this in 50,000 years. Representatives from 47 species shouted and argued on their floating platforms. Translation devices struggled to keep up with the flood of angry voices. The chamber that had witnessed calm debates for 200 millennia was now filled with fear. Ambassador Kethvoran tried to restore order. His blue-gray skin had turned a sickly white color. This meant he was terrified. "Please, everyone, we must remain calm and discuss this rationally." "Rationally?" roared General Thaxom of the Dreth hegemony. His 4 red eyes blazed with fury and shame. 31 of our finest warships, gone in minutes. Our crews did not even see what killed them. He slammed his massive fist on his platform. "This is not a time for rational discussion. This is a time for war." The holographic display in the center of the chamber showed the sensor data from the battle. Every representative had seen it a dozen times already. They watched again as the human ship appeared from nowhere. They watched as the gravitational shockwave crushed the Dreth flagship like a toy. They watched as the Prometheus vanished and reappeared, killing with impossible precision. Our scientists have analyzed the weapon signatures, said Zelnora of the Veth Combine. Her crystalline body pulsed with nervous light. They cannot explain what they are seeing. The humans are manipulating space-time itself. They are creating artificial gravity wells. No species has ever achieved this. That is not accurate, said a voice like grinding stone. Everyone fell silent. The observers rarely spoke. They were ancient machine intelligences, older than any living species in the galaxy. Some said they had been built by the precursors, the mysterious civilization that had vanished 2 million years ago. Others said they were the precursors, transformed into digital immortality. No one knew the truth. The observers never explained themselves. The observer representative was a simple metal sphere that floated at the edge of the chamber. Its surface was smooth and featureless, but everyone knew there was vast intelligence inside. We have seen this energy signature once before, the observer continued, in the ruins of the precursors. Their civilization spanned the galaxy before any of your ancestors crawled from the oceans. They built wonders that you cannot imagine. And then they disappeared. The chamber was completely silent now. The precursors mastered dark matter, the observer said. They learned to interact with the substrate that underlies all normal space. This is what the humans have discovered. The question you should ask is not how they did it. The question is why the precursors, with all their power, no longer exist. The silence stretched on for a long moment. Then General Thaxum shook himself. Ancient history does not matter. What matters is that the humans have weapons we cannot match. We must destroy them before they build more ships. And how do you propose we do that? Asked Kethrin. Your fleet was the finest in the hegemony. They were destroyed by a single human vessel. Then we send more, Thaxum shouted. We assemble the combined fleet. Every species contributes ships. We overwhelm them with numbers. Other voices joined in agreement. The militant Axis, as they were called, believed that violence was the only answer. They pointed to the sensor data. One ship, they argued. The humans only had one ship. If the Council acted quickly, they could crush Earth before more ships were built. But not everyone agreed. The conciliators argued for a different approach. High Diplomat Serentha of the Eloquent spoke with musical tones that calmed the room. The humans have achieved something extraordinary, she said. Something that no species in galactic history has accomplished. Instead of trying to destroy them, we should bring them into the fold. Imagine if we had access to this technology. Imagine what the galaxy could become. They will never share it willingly, Thaxum growled. They are humans. They are aggressive and paranoid. They will use this power to dominate us all. Can you blame them? Asked Serentha. We rejected them. We humiliated them. We sent a fleet to subjugate their homeworld. If we offer peace now, perhaps they will listen. The debate raged on for hours. Species that had cooperated for millennia now threatened each other. Old alliances cracked under the pressure of fear. The careful balance of power that had maintained galactic peace was crumbling. Meanwhile, the observer floated in silence, watching everything with sensors that no one could comprehend. Far from the council chambers, humanity was not waiting to see what decision the aliens would make. On Titan, the largest moon of Saturn, massive shipyards worked without rest. The Prometheus had been a prototype, built in secret over decades. Now that secrecy was no longer necessary, production could accelerate. Dr. Elena Vasquez walked through the construction bays with Admiral Okonkwo at her side. Rows of partially completed warships stretched into the distance. Workers and robots swarmed over the hulls, installing dark matter drives and weapons. How many can we have ready before the council responds? Okonkwo asked. If they give us 6 months, we will have 30 ships, Elena replied. If they give us a year, we will have 70, but they will not wait that long. No, Okonkwo agreed. They will come with everything they have. The council has not faced a real threat in 50,000 years. They are scared, and scared beings do stupid things. Elena looked at the warships taking shape around her. Each one was a monument to human stubbornness. For 3 generations, her family had worked toward this moment. They had been told that dark matter was impossible to harness. They had ignored the experts. They had kept trying when everyone said they should give up. That was what made humanity different, Elena realized. Other species accepted limits. Humans pushed through them. Back at the council, a vote was finally called. The result was closer than anyone expected. But the militant Axis won. The combined fleet would be assembled. Over 2,000 warships from 16 species would mass at the edge of the Sol system. They would give humanity one final chance to surrender. If the humans refused, they would be destroyed. General Thaxam felt satisfaction rumble through his massive body. This was the right decision. The humans were dangerous, but they were still young. They could not have built many of their impossible ships. Numbers would win this war. The observer spoke one final time as the council session ended. "You have chosen the path of war," it said. "We will not interfere, but we will be watching. The last time this energy was unleashed in the galaxy, a civilization that made yours look primitive was erased from existence. Remember that when you face what the humans have become." No one listened. They were too busy preparing their fleets. Humanity had 12 weeks before the combined fleet arrived. In the shipyards of Titan, workers doubled their efforts. In the research facilities of Ceres, scientists refined the dark matter weapons. In the training centers of Mars, crews prepared for battles that would decide the fate of their species. The silence was truly over now. The storm had arrived, and it would sweep across the entire galaxy before it was done. The combined fleet was the largest military force assembled in 50,000 years. 2,047 warships from 16 different species hung in formation at the edge of the Sol system. Their hulls ranged from the organic living ships of the Thrawn to the crystalline vessels of the Veth Combine. The Dreth had contributed 300 fresh dreadnoughts, each crew burning for revenge. The Silent brought their famous carrier groups. The Eloquent provided support in medical ships. Supreme Commander Yethala stood on the bridge of the Council flagship, the Harmony of Purpose. She was silent, tall and elegant, with skin that currently showed the deep purple of determination. She had been chosen to lead this mission because she was brilliant, patient, and careful. The Council hoped she would succeed where the Dreth had failed. "All ships report ready," her tactical officer announced. "The humans will see us on their sensors within the hour." Yethala studied the tactical display. The human fleet was waiting near the outer planets. Her intelligence reports said they had only 23 of their dark matter warships. 23 against 2,000. The numbers favored the Council overwhelmingly. But Yethala had watched the recordings of the first battle many times. She had seen how the Dreth dreadnoughts died. Numbers meant nothing if you could not hit your enemy. "Open a channel to the human commander," she ordered. Admiral James Okonkwo's face appeared on the display. He looked tired but calm. Behind him, Yethala could see the bridge of a human warship. It was simpler than Council vessels, more functional, less elegant, but there was something dangerous about its simplicity. "Supreme Commander," Okonkwo said, "I appreciate you calling ahead this time. The Dreth just showed up and started making demands." "Admiral, I am required to give you a final offer before we proceed," Yethala said. "Surrender your dark matter technology. Submit to indefinite Council oversight. Accept permanent restrictions on your military development. If you agree to these terms, no more blood needs to be spilled." Okonkwo laughed. It was not a cruel laugh. It sounded almost sad. "Supreme Commander, let me tell you something about humanity. We spent our entire history fighting for survival. We fought our world, which tried to kill us with ice ages and plagues and disasters. We fought each other because we could not agree on how to live. We fought extinction itself, and we won every time." He leaned forward. His eyes were hard. "We clawed our way to the stars with nothing but stubbornness and spite. We begged your Council for help, and you laughed at us. You called us children. You sent a fleet to put us in chains. And now you think we will kneel?" Okonkwo shook his head. "Bring your fleet, Supreme Commander. Bring all of them. We will teach the galaxy what happens when you underestimate humanity." The channel closed. Yethala felt a chill run through her body. She had commanded fleets for 300 years. She had never heard anyone speak with such absolute confidence before a battle they should lose. "All ships," she ordered, "advance in standard formation. Watch for the enemy ships. They can appear anywhere. Keep your shields at maximum and your weapons ready." The combined fleet moved forward like a wall of destruction. 2,000 warships, their drives blazing, their weapons charged. They were the might of the civilized galaxy, and nothing had ever stood against them. The human fleet waited. The first hour of the battle was chaos. Human ships emerged from the dark matter substrate in groups of 3 and 4. They fired their gravitational weapons and vanished before the Council ships could respond. The shockwaves tore through formations, destroying some ships and damaging others. The Council fleet tried to adapt, spreading out to minimize the damage from each attack. This made them harder to hit, but it also made them harder to coordinate. "We are losing ships too fast," reported Yathala's tactical officer. 47 destroyed in the first 30 minutes. "Concentrate fire on the areas where they appear," Yathala commanded. "They cannot stay invisible forever. Catch them when they emerge." The Council ships learned quickly. They set up overlapping fields of fire, creating kill zones where any emerging human ship would be hit from multiple angles. It worked. 3 human vessels were destroyed when they materialized into a concentrated barrage. But the humans adapted too. Admiral Okonkwo watched the battle from the bridge of the Prometheus. His fleet was taking losses now, but the Council was taking more. He saw the patterns in the enemy formation. He saw where they were strong and where they were weak. "All ships, new tactics," he ordered. "Attack the flanks, hit them where their coverage is thin, and activate the secondary weapons." The human ships changed their approach. Instead of appearing in the middle of the enemy formation, they emerged at the edges. They destroyed ships and retreated before the Council could respond. And then the secondary weapons came online. The dark matter mines were Dr. Vasquez's newest invention. They were small devices that could be deployed in normal space and then shifted partially into the dark matter substrate. They were invisible to normal sensors. When a Council ship flew near one, it detonated, creating a miniature gravitational shockwave that crippled or destroyed the vessel. The Council fleet flew into a minefield they could not see. "We are taking massive casualties," screamed a Dreth captain. "The space around us is full of traps." Ships began to explode seemingly at random. The careful formations fell apart as captains tried to avoid the invisible death that surrounded them. Some fled. Others crashed into each other in the confusion. Yathala watched her fleet dying. She had brought 2,000 ships against 23. By every calculation, she should have won easily. Instead, she was witnessing the greatest military disaster in galactic history. After 6 hours, she gave the order to retreat. The surviving Council ships fled the Sol system as fast as their drives could carry them. They left behind the wreckage of 1,300 warships. The human fleet had lost 11 vessels. Admiral Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the Prometheus and watched the enemy disappear. His hands were shaking. The battle had been closer than anyone would ever know. If the Council had pressed harder, if they had been willing to accept more losses, they might have won through sheer numbers. But they had broken first. The myth of Council invincibility had shattered against human stubbornness. "Send a message to Earth," Okonkwo said. "Tell them it is over. We won." On Earth, billions of people celebrated. They had faced the united might of the galaxy and survived. They were no longer the weak species begging for acceptance. They were warriors who had earned their place among the stars. But Okonkwo did not celebrate. He looked out at the battlefield, at the drifting wreckage of Council ships. He thought about the observer's warning. The precursors had mastered this technology too, and they had vanished. What had destroyed them? And would humanity face the same fate? The battle was won. But Okonkwo knew that the war was just beginning. The aftermath of the Battle of the Kuiper Line spread across the galaxy like ripples in water. News traveled at the speed of light through communication networks that connected 1,000 worlds. Every species heard the same impossible story. A young civilization, barely 3 centuries old, had defeated the combined fleet of the Galactic Council. The old order that had ruled for 200,000 years was shaking on its foundations. The Galactic Council did not collapse, but it fractured in ways that would never fully heal. Species that had chafed under elder race dominance for millennia suddenly saw possibilities they had never imagined. If the humans could stand against the Council, perhaps others could too. The Dreth hegemony withdrew from Council affairs entirely. Their shame was too great to bear. General Thaxom was removed from command and exiled to a frozen moon, where he would spend the rest of his long life contemplating his failure. The Dreth had been the enforcers of council policy for 100,000 years. Now they had nothing but broken ships and wounded pride. The Silinth Collective, led by the humiliated ambassador Kethivoran, argued for a new approach. Fighting humanity had been a disaster. Perhaps cooperation would work better. Not everyone agreed, but the militant axis had lost its credibility. Their strategy had led to the worst defeat in galactic history. Meanwhile, ships from a dozen different species began making quiet journeys to the Sol system. They came not as conquerors, but as seekers. The Thrawn wanted to trade their biological technologies for knowledge of dark matter. The Veth Combine offered rare crystals that could enhance human computing systems. Smaller species that had never dared to defy the Council now saw humanity as a potential ally against their oppressors. But the most surprising visitors were the observers. Their ship was simple, a smooth metal sphere much larger than the one that represented them at council meetings. It entered the Sol system slowly, broadcasting its peaceful intentions on every frequency. Admiral Okonkwo met them personally, curious about what the ancient machine intelligences wanted. The observer representative materialized on the bridge of the Prometheus as a holographic projection. It took the form of a humanoid shape, a gesture of respect that surprised everyone present. "We have watched biological civilizations rise and fall for millions of years," the observer said. "Most of them make the same mistakes. They discover dangerous technologies before they are ready. They destroy themselves or each other. The galaxy is filled with the graves of species who reach too far too fast." "Is that why you came here?" Okonkwo asked. "To warn us?" "Partly," the observer replied, "but also to request something we have never asked of any species before. We wish to exchange knowledge with you." This was extraordinary. The observers had always kept themselves apart. They shared nothing. They explained nothing. They simply watched. "Why us?" Okonkwo asked. "Because you have touched something the precursors touched. You have looked into the dark matter substrate. And unlike them, you have survived so far. We wish to understand how, and we wish to share what we know about what destroyed them." On Earth, the United Parliament met to discuss the future. Representatives from every nation gathered in the Great Chamber in Geneva. They argued about treaties and territories and trade agreements. But the most important speech of the day came from Dr. Elena Vasquez. She stood before the assembled leaders of humanity and explained what her team had truly discovered. Dark matter was not just a tool for weapons and propulsion. It was a window into another layer of reality. The universe was not flat. It had depth, and most species only lived on the surface. "We found structures in the dark matter substrate," Elena said. "Ancient structures, machines and devices built by a civilization that existed 2 million years ago. The precursors did not simply disappear. They went somewhere. They are still out there, in the deep layers of reality that we are only beginning to understand." The Parliament fell silent. This was bigger than politics or power. This was about the fundamental nature of existence. "What destroyed them?" asked the Secretary General. "We do not know yet," Elena admitted. "But the observers might. They have offered to share their records with us. If we can learn from the precursors' mistakes, perhaps we can avoid their fate." Ambassador Kethivoran arrived on Earth 3 months after the battle. He came in a small diplomatic vessel, alone except for a few aides. The proud Silinth, who had laughed at humanity's petition, now stood before the Parliament with a very different message. "The Galactic Council recognizes that it misjudged your species," he said. His skin had turned the soft blue of humility. "We were arrogant. We assumed that our ways were the only ways. We tried to control something we did not understand. This was wrong." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "We do not come to surrender. We come to propose alliance. The galaxy is larger than any of us realized. There are mysteries in the dark matter that could threaten us all. Humanity has proven that it belongs among the stars. Perhaps together, we can face whatever is coming." The negotiations took months. Neither side trusted the other fully, but slowly, carefully, a new relationship was built. Humanity would share some of its dark matter research. The Council would share its vast resources and knowledge. Trade routes opened, cultural exchanges began. The galaxy that had tried to crush humanity now had to make room for it. Admiral Okonkwo retired from active command after the treaty was signed. He had spent his entire career preparing for a war that was now over, but he did not feel peace. He stood on the observation deck of the Prometheus one final time, looking out at the stars. The galaxy glittered below him, beautiful and mysterious. Somewhere out there, in the deep layers of reality that humanity was just beginning to explore, the precursors waited. Or perhaps something worse. The observers spoke of disturbances in the substrate, patterns that suggested something was waking up. Something old, something vast. Dr. Vasquez joined him on the observation deck. She was holding a data pad with the latest readings from their deep substrate sensors. "We are detecting signals," she said quietly, "coming from the direction of the galactic core. Regular pulses, almost like a heartbeat. The precursors? We do not know. The observers are worried. They say they have never seen readings like this before. Whatever is out there, it has noticed us." Okonkwo looked at the stars. 300 years ago, humanity had been trapped on a single planet, looking up at lights they could not reach. Now they had changed the course of galactic history. They had proven that a young species with nothing but determination could stand against ancient empires. Whatever was waiting in the dark, humanity would face it the same way they had faced everything else. Together, stubbornly, without surrender. "Let them come," Okonkwo said. "We have spent our entire existence fighting to survive. We are not going to stop now." Elena smiled. The galaxy thought they knew what humanity was capable of. They had no idea. "No," Okonkwo agreed. "They did not." Earth glittered below, no longer a backwater world, but the heart of a new power in the galaxy. The humans who looked up at the stars now knew that they were not alone, but they also knew something else. Something that made them different from every other species that had reached for the heavens. They were not afraid. And in the dark matter depths between galaxies, something ancient stirred. It turned its attention toward the small, stubborn species that had finally learned to see in the dark. It had been waiting for a very long time. The next chapter of humanity's story was about to begin.